Hello everyone, and welcome to my Sister Wives For You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It's truly over, and the reality of Christine Brown and David Woolley's painful divorce is sending shockwaves through the Sister Wives world, breaking hearts far beyond the edges of the Brown family tree as fans struggle to understand how a fairy tale romance that once symbolized Christine's long-awaited happiness could crumble into a storyline more tragic than anything viewers have seen on screen. After all, Christine had rebuilt herself from the ashes of heartbreak, empowered and determined to never again lose her identity in the shadows of plural marriage. Yet here she stands again in the harsh glare of public scrutiny, this time facing the unraveling of the relationship that once promised her everything she had been denied: devotion, stability, partnership, and the kind of love that seemed too good to be true, even for her, with her sunshine-filled optimism. The loss is doubly heartbreaking considering how wildly fans celebrated her journey in the months following her split from Kody Brown, cheering her on as she blossomed into a confident, radiant woman who rediscovered laughter, romance, and a sense of worth that had long been stifled by years of emotional neglect and spiritual exhaustion. And when David entered the picture, appearing to be the gentle, admirable hero she had deserved all along, supporters believed she had finally found the restless, joyful love she once described as a breath of fresh air. But now that beautiful narrative has fractured into rumors, half-explanations, and the heavy silence that always follows a breakup too raw to neatly package for social media. Insiders close to Christine whisper that the cracks began long before the public sensed anything was wrong, citing the mounting pressure of blending families, financial disagreements, and expectations that grew heavier with each passing season of change, especially after her move to Utah solidified a new chapter in her life, while also creating tension over travel, time together, and how much they could jointly shoulder as they tried to merge two complex adult lives with grown children, varying needs, and a spotlight that never really dimmed. Those same insiders claim that the couple's dynamic shifted subtly over time, with Christine desperate to maintain the joy she had fought so hard to reclaim, while David, quiet and unaccustomed to the relentless pace of the Sister Wives fandom, struggled with both the online pressures and the private demands of a relationship that carried the emotional residue of Christine's past heartbreaks, a burden he may not have been fully prepared for when he stepped so confidently into her world. Meanwhile, fans began noticing small changes in her social media behavior, subtle ones like fewer couple posts, less affectionate comments, and an increasing focus on her work, her children, and her personal hobbies. And though many brushed it off as the natural ebb and flow of marriage, the truth behind the scenes was much more fragile. With Christine and David reportedly attending counseling sessions, taking short breaks from each other, and trying to navigate disagreements that grew increasingly frequent as the excitement of newlywed life faded into the reality of maintaining a long-term partnership, the emotional weight of Christine's past, including her deep-seated fear of ever again settling for less than she deserved, is said to have played a significant role in her decision to step away when things no longer felt right. And though the divorce is undeniably painful, she is determined not to repeat the years of quiet suffering she endured with Kody. Those close to Christine insist this decision, though heartbreaking, was made from a place of strength and self-preservation rather than defeat. And they hope fans understand that even the strongest love stories sometimes cannot endure the layered complexities that follow a person who has endured as much public heartbreak as she has. While those close to David say he is devastated, having believed fervently in their future and invested deeply in building a shared life that he now watches unravel day by day. They describe his grief as quiet and solitary, a stark contrast to Christine's emotional transparency, and say he feels not just the loss of a wife but also the loss of the family he had begun to bond with, especially since Christine's children had welcomed him warmly and embraced the idea of their mother finding love after years of heartbreak. But sources also note that the divorce, no matter how sad, was not explosive or dramatic. Instead, it was a series of painful conversations filled with disappointment, tears, and the mutual recognition that neither wanted to continue down a path that no longer felt sustainable or fair to either of them. As the public begins to absorb the news, Sister Wives fans are expressing shock, sorrow, and even anger, unsure how to reconcile Christine's once glowing happiness with this new chapter of grief. Yet, many are also showing compassion, remembering how resilient she has always been and how much she has already endured. Supporters argue that Christine deserves grace, freedom, and time to heal without suffocating speculation, though the flood of comments online suggests that this divorce has reopened emotional wounds for longtime viewers who had hoped Christine's new marriage would finally give her the peaceful, stable love story she was once denied. Still, in the midst of heartbreak, there is a subtle but undeniable sense of hope from both Christine's inner circle and her most loyal fans, who believe she will rise from this heartbreak as she has risen from every other one, stronger, wiser, and more determined to protect her happiness. Some speculate that Christine may eventually open up about what truly happened, possibly addressing the divorce in an upcoming season or a future interview. Not to place blame, but to share her journey authentically, just as she has always done. Her friends emphasize that she remains deeply grateful for the happiness she once had with David and does not wish to villainize him, only to acknowledge that love sometimes shifts, changes, or dissolves despite everyone's best intentions. Rumors continue to swirl that the divorce papers were filed quietly weeks ago, with Christine focusing on rebuilding her emotional strength before releasing the news publicly, while David has stepped back from social media entirely to avoid the tidal wave of comments that would inevitably come. Though no one knows exactly how the next chapter of Christine's life will unfold, one thing has become clear. This divorce is not a step back, but rather a redirection, a painful but necessary pivot toward whatever healing, clarity, and renewal await her next. And so, as hearts continue to break across the fandom, the story of Christine and David's marriage, once a beacon of hope, fades into a bittersweet reminder that even the most beautiful new beginnings cannot always outrun the shadows of the past. But Christine Brown, ever resilient, will undoubtedly find a way to turn this heartbreak into growth, emerging once again as a woman who refuses to let sorrow define her future. As the dust continues to settle around Christine and David's painful divorce, more layers of the story are slowly surfacing, painting a picture that is far more complex, heartbreaking, and emotionally tangled than the simple "it just didn't work out" explanation some initially assumed, because according to sources close to the couple, the separation wasn't the result of a single catastrophic event, but rather a gradual unraveling, a slow drift between two people who genuinely loved each other but struggled to merge their worlds in a way that felt fair, healthy, and sustainable. Christine, who had long carried the emotional residue of her plural marriage, reportedly found herself falling into old patterns of over-accommodating and over-explaining, constantly trying to show up as the perfect partner to avoid repeating the pain she endured with Cody Brown, while David, who had stepped into the relationship with an open heart, found himself unexpectedly overwhelmed by the volume of Christine's emotional history, the intensity of the sister wives' public spotlight, and the constant balancing act required when blending families with different expectations, preferences, and wounds. Those close to the situation say that despite the love between them, the pressure slowly mounted behind closed doors, creating cracks that no amount of affection could fully seal as Christine began noticing how often she was sacrificing her boundaries to keep the peace. And David began feeling increasingly unsure of how to fit into a life shaped not only by past trauma, but also by the ongoing demands of a public persona that Christine had no choice but to maintain. Their friends say it became evident over time that the spark which once made them inseparable was dimming under the weight of miscommunication, mismatched emotional needs, and a lifestyle neither had fully anticipated when they leapt into marriage with such enthusiasm. The turning point, insiders reveal, came during a series of difficult conversations where both Christine and David acknowledged, often through tears, that they were no longer bringing out the best in each other, and though the idea of ending things shattered them both, the realization that staying together might deepen their emotional pain pushed them toward the heartbreaking decision to separate. The divorce, while devastating, was handled quietly, maturely, and with deep respect, reflecting their shared wish to preserve the dignity of what they once had, which is why no explosive accusations have surfaced, and why both have remained largely silent online, choosing healing over public drama. Yet even with their grace and privacy, the heartbreak is undeniable, especially for fans who had emotionally invested in Christine's second chance at happiness, with many expressing how deeply gutted they feel watching her walk through yet another painful ending when she had already endured more than enough. Some fans believe that Christine may eventually address the divorce in a future Sister Wives season or a heartfelt social media post, while others argue she deserves the space to move forward without being expected to narrate every detail of her heartbreak for public consumption, especially given how raw and unexpected this particular ending feels. Still, those who know Christine best insist that while she is grieving heavily, she is also rediscovering a quiet strength, one that reminds her she survived far worse heartbreak during her years with Cody, and one that reassures her she will not be defined by this divorce or by the public's reaction to it. They say she is leaning deeply into her family, her work, and her personal growth, focusing not on the love she lost but on the life she still has, and though the wound is fresh, she has already begun to reflect on the relationship with gratitude, acknowledging the joy it brought her during a season where she desperately needed affirmation, companionship, and the reminder that she was lovable after years of emotional deprivation. Meanwhile, David is said to be processing the breakup quietly, surrounded by his own children and close friends, heartbroken but not bitter, wishing Christine nothing but healing and happiness despite the pain of losing a marriage he had once believed would last forever. He reportedly still speaks highly of her, telling those close to him that she deserves the world, even if he ultimately wasn't the partner she needed to navigate the next chapter of her life. And so, while the Sister Wives world continues to mourn this unexpected ending, the truth beneath the heartbreak is painfully simple. Two good people fell in love, tried their best, and ultimately chose healing over staying in a relationship that could no longer sustain them, leaving fans to grieve the fairy tale ending they hoped Christine finally had, even as she bravely steps into the next chapter with the same resilience, hope, and determination that has carried her through every storm before.